All of us need to strike against the fucking corporation, not just fucking SAG and the actors, the teacher. Everybody need to be fucking striking against the fucking corporations because they're fucking all of us.
Go watch that whole video. I love it. I love it. Yo, we all need them to win. All of us. We all need them to win. So just for some context, I'm a writer, but I'm not represented by any unions whatsoever. I also worked in the film industry for a long time. Wasn't represented by a union. Tried to get into 52 as a prop and set dressing. Do you have any idea how hard it is to get into a union? So if people who are in unions are getting forked, everybody's getting forked. And as somebody who is like, most of my comedy friends are in the WGA and SAG, most of them are actually pretty successful and they barely pay their bills. These people are not rich. They're not rich. They're not anywhere near being rich because, their agents and stuff, they get 30% at least taken off the top. And then they have to pay taxes on that, on the whole thing, right? They don't get paid when they're not working, which is a lot. When you see someone successful, that's because they've got years of being exploited before they ever break in. If they ever break in. And do you have any idea how many actors never break in with a big role? It's most of them. They're usually small parts or background actors their whole life. And those people don't get paid shit. So let's talk about writers, okay? So I have a successful writing career. But in terms of the journalism world, you get no protection unless you're staffed, which most writers are not. No protection, no health insurance, no union, no nothing. And I'm going to give some numbers in a minute to back that up. But before I say any of that, I wrote a pilot with one of my writing partners. She has a great agent in Hollywood. She's written for TV shows. She's very successful. She loved my story. So we co-wrote a show together. We spent over a year on this thing. We wrote the whole thing, right? That you have to pitch, or not that your agent pitches, because you have to have an agent first. So we used her agent to get us in the door. All of that work, none of it's paid, right? It's all like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory golden ticket type mentality. Everything is a lottery ticket. You work for months and months on something, sometimes years, and you never get paid for it. So you have to have at least 1 or 2 or 5 other jobs while you're doing these. So we, agent loved it. Agent, sent it out to production companies. We got some bites from some big ones. Had meetings, where we pitched the show. Big important people, right? They loved it. Then we wait for 6 months and finally get no, sorry, there's too many domestic violence TV shows out right now. It's a pass, but we love the story. Okay. Anyway, what it ended up being, all those meetings, all that time, all that stress, all that love, none of it's a waste, but I didn't get paid for any of it. Like a year and a half of my life, zero. And that's most TV shows you pitch, you do not sell. You know what I mean? Unless you have unless you're like way up there. So all of this stuff is literally like lottery ticket style luck. Talent does go a long way. But the only people who don't need luck are nepo babies, right? So that's why I criticize nepo babies. So they have so many connections just literally by being born into the right family. I don't have an issue with nepo babies. I have an issue with nepo babies who won't admit how much privilege they have. I also, being on crew with a lot of nepo babies, oh God. I'm not going to say her name, but a rock star's daughter. I worked on a Gap commercial. I was crafty on that one because I quit the film industry and started moving to commercials and did crafty instead of props and all that. Anyway, so that I could keep writing, because commercials is like selling your soul, but they pay better money. This girl, God, her coconut water. She wanted coconut water. I went to 6 different tiny little organic food stores in Brooklyn and Queens and Manhattan. Get this fucking coconut water. And then she shows up on set. I was like, I got your coconut water. You have to have the coconut water for the big nepo babies. And she was like, I don't drink that anymore. And I was like, cool, thanks for telling me. Meanwhile, I've spent a big chunk of my budget on this stupid water that nobody wants but her. Anyway, so let's get to the journalism side. This article that I reference all the time, my proudest work, went super viral. It was also reposted. So this is for Harper's Bazaar. It was reposted by a bunch of different publications because they're all owned by the same one. So it was in Oprah. I think it was in Mary Claire. A bunch of different magazines published this one article that I wrote, but I only got paid once. You get paid once. It went viral, still make the same money. It doesn't matter how many millions of people read this article, how many articles are written about this article. GQ wrote one, Slate wrote one. On Saturday Night Live, they did a skit called Dog Park that Vanity Fair credited me for the idea of men not having friends. This one right here, Vanity Fair, okay, this article. They're talking about Dog Park and how Melanie Hamlet put it in her Harper's Bazaar, Men Have Friends. The whole thing's about my article and how that Dog Park sketch was about that. Awesome, great, I love that. I thank you for credit for that. But none of these things pay me. Podcasts that invite me on to talk about that article, they don't pay. Like, I don't make money from any of that stuff, y'all. And do you have any idea how many times I've gotten screwed? I've spent dozens of hours on an article. And then they just I'm not talking about Harper's Bazaar. I'm talking about like they all do this. But there was one for Playboy. I spent so much time on this article. And then the editor ghosted me. It never saw the light of day. Didn't get paid for anything. That happens all the time. And I don't have union representation. So if the people with some of the strongest unions in the United States are getting screwed, why would anybody not want them to win? If the union people are getting screwed, do y'all, we're getting royally screwed. We need them to win, y'all. The fight that they are doing is for all of us. And again, a lot of my friends, I went to the Upright Citizens Brigade in New York, right? Most of my friends are still working actors. They, after 10 years of comedy, might get booked on one Super Bowl ad, and that'll pay the whole year's worth of living. But that's after all those years of training, of going to auditions they don't get. Like, y'all, these people are not rich. The Jennifer Anistons and all of them, okay, they're rich, but it's all the people that we don't know, other than the CEOs themselves. All those people are exploiting the crap out of the most one of the most protected industry, and yet an industry that still has a huge problem with assaults, with sexual violence, with racism, with all the bad things are still happening in this industry. And on top of that, they want to use AI to screw them all more. And yet these are the people who are protected by strong unions. God, the way they have convinced us that artists are rich? Are you kidding me? Most of us, including myself, are in so much debt trying to break in. And then when we do, a lot of us still aren't compensated. That's why I don't write much anymore. It doesn't pay my bills. I still have to have a writing coach. I do TikTok, I do YouTube, I do all these other things because writing is so unstable. And I've got a very impressive resume, and I got no protection other than my privileges that I was born into that I didn't earn. And now that I live in France and see, holy crap, see what it looks like. I mean, they still get screwed by capitalism and all that stuff, and they have a big racism problem they won't talk about. I have all the problems, right? But when I see what it looks like to have protection, my husband, they have to take him to court to fire him. Not always, but when you have a CDI, it is almost impossible to fire someone. Health insurance, maternity leave, paternity leave now, although not enough. Like all of this stuff, they get so much because it's all about unions here. When you see this stuff actually possible and you realize how less stressful life is with even a little bit more protection than I've never had health insurance as an adult until I moved abroad. When you see how much, God, life is so less terrifying. When you just have basic bottom line protection. Please, God, please, everyone get behind this. If famous people, I know that we don't care about railroad people. That was clear with what happened with the railroad people. But if we can't even get behind famous people who make the art that we consume all the time because we're just like, yeah, they're me. We're screwed, y'all. Get behind them. Get behind them. All of us need them to win. This strike is historic. And if nothing comes out of it, oh man. God, I don't even want to think about it.